Hello, and welcome to Storytime with Writer's Playground. My name is Merrick Humbert.
And I am Mariana Davila.
And we are your hosts. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are excited to be back for another episode, and we have a super charming story for you today. And I think we are just going to get right into it.
Yep, and I think charming is just the word to describe this story. But first, remember that registration is open for our 12th Playground Challenge, so make sure to sign up. It will take place from January 8th to January 18th, and you can get all the details and register on our website, writersplaygroundllc.com.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. And as for today, Mariana will be reading A Suitcase of Colors by Anne Wilkins, which won 6th place in our 7th Playground Challenge. Anne is a sleep-deprived primary school teacher from Auckland, New Zealand, and she is a talented short fiction writer who one day hopes to actually get around to publishing some books and longer work. And we would encourage you all to check out her website, AnneWilkinsAuthor.com, and follow her on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. Look for Anne Wilkins Author, and we will have all this information, her handles in the description, wherever you are listening to this. But for today, here is A Suitcase of Colors, a colorful journey on a train for a young girl. Enjoy.
A Suitcase of Colors by Anne Wilkins. The first time I saw him, I was with Ma, ready to board the train. He definitely looked odd, the kind of odd where people have to look twice just to make sure their eyes aren't tricking them. He was standing on the platform wearing one of those black and white suits with a little bow tie and a black top hat, carrying a large suitcase. Even more strange was that he was whistling to himself, tapping his shiny shoes and sometimes pausing mid-whistle to sing. I knew adults weren't supposed to do that kind of stuff out in the open. That was all meant for indoors where folks can't see you. In the real world, you've got to act a certain way, respectable-like. Maybe someone hadn't told the old man about the rules, because it was like he was colored bright green or even pink when everyone else was black, white, and gray. "Don't look, Abby," hissed Ma beside me, and her hand that was holding mine clenched a little tighter, as if I'd done something wrong. Back then, I didn't know it was rude to stare, that the polite thing to do was to ignore the odd and pretend they didn't even exist. "Come on now, the train's almost here," and she pulled me away closer to the edge of the platform, where I had to turn my head right around if I wanted to see the old man. I was tempted, but I knew she'd be mad, so instead I listened to his whistling and his sometimes singing and found my sneaker doing a tap-tap of its own. When the train pulled in, it took me by surprise. It looked nothing like Thomas the Tank Engine with his pretty colors and happy face, ready for adventure. That's what I had thought was coming. That's what Ma had told me. "You're going to ride on Thomas. Won't that be fun?" Instead, this one was long and silver, kinda dull and dirty. It reminded me of a cage, a big long metal one with glass windows instead of bars. It hissed as it came to a stop and its door slid open hungrily. "Let's go," said Ma, and she pulled my hand. But my sneakers didn't seem to want to move. There was something not nice about the train. Or maybe there was something not nice about the whole thing. Whatever it was, my feet stayed still and felt all heavy, like I'd grown roots into the concrete. Ma's voice started to get an edge to it. "We haven't got all day, Abby. Get a move on." This time she yanked my hand and my feet lifted from the platform. My school bag slipped from my shoulders and my eyes started watering. I knew the crying would make Ma more angry, but I couldn't help myself. And the more I thought about not crying, the more my eyes watered. "For Christ's sake, I can't deal with this," Ma muttered, and her hand clapped down on mine real hard, squeezing so tight, not from love, but from something else. "Ow," I said, but quiet-like because I didn't want anyone to hear or to look. The old man stepped forward. He'd stopped whistling and he was holding my school bag. Up close, his eyes were soft, like Ma's used to be. His big gray mustache looked all tickly and he reminded me of Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas the Tank Engine.
"Is this yours, my lady?"
He asked, and he smiled. I hadn't seen a smile like that for a long time, and I'd never been called a lady. It made me giggle, which was strange to go from crying to giggling, but Ma always said I was a strange child. "Thank you," said Ma, and she grabbed my school bag. Her words didn't sound like a thank you.
After you.
The old man gestured to those metal doors with an open hand as if he was really Sir Topham Hatt, and somehow my sneakers found their own way onto the carriage with Ma and the old man behind me. On board the train, there was more black and white and gray, people looking at phones or out the window. No one here was bright green or pink. Ma and I found a seat and she became like everyone else, a gray looking out the window. The old man sat in the seat across from me. He didn't have a phone to play with and he wasn't looking out the window, but he was looking at me.
Is this your first time on a train?
He asked. I looked over to Ma to see if it was all right to talk to him because I wasn't sure if he was still a stranger now that we've spoken, but she never looked back. There'd been a silence for such a long time, I thought it was rude not to reply. "Yes," I said in a small voice.
You'll like it through the tunnels. It goes black, and then I like to count to see how long it takes before we get to the other side.
That sounds like fun. I thought Ma might join in with talking to the old man, but she was still staring out the window. She wasn't holding my hand now either. It was just resting on her big belly, stroking what lay there. "Are you Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas the Tank Engine?" I asked. The old man laughed.
Would you like me to be?
"Yes."
Well then, I shall be. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Miss...
"Abby." I didn't give him my last name. I wasn't even sure what my last name would be anymore. Things were different now. "What's in your suitcase, Sir Hatt?" I asked, and his mustache twitched like he was going to sneeze or laugh.
Today I have dragons. 10 of them. Bright red and scaly with fearsome manners. They never say please or thank you, and they burn all my toast. Quite frightful things, really.
"Can I see?" I asked excitedly.
No, I'm afraid not. If I let them out on the train, they would cause complete havoc, and I'd never get them back in the suitcase. You're just going to have to take me at my word.
And he gave me a little wink. It reminded me of the way Daddy used to wink at me before he died, when he'd be holding up a card for me to pick. "Pick a card, Abby, pick a card, anyone," he'd say, and then I'd pick one and he'd always end up guessing it, and giving me a little wink as if he knew something I didn't. He always had the magic in him. He was bright green, like the man, and back then, Ma was pink. That was when we all had color. There's a scale for earthquakes that goes from 1 to 10. 1 is just a little quake that most people wouldn't even feel, and 10 is like a giant ripping up the earth. Ma says the one that hit us was 6.5. It was a kind of earthquake where the shelves all trembled and the fancy ornaments fell down and the floor went all bendy. The power and the phone lines went out and some buildings toppled just like Jenga, but for real. Our home didn't topple, but Daddy's work building did. Still, Daddy had the magic in him, so I wasn't expecting him to die. I knew he'd have a trick up his sleeve, and he'd be giving me a wink and saying, "See, Abby, here I am. You didn't see that coming, did you?" But Daddy never did come back, and somehow the magic went with him and all the color. Ma drained away to white. Someday she's gray, even black, but she's never been pink since. I'm thinking all this as we near our train stop. I like to tell Sir Hatt about Daddy, but Ma doesn't like me talking about him anymore because it makes her cry. "Bye, Sir Hatt," I said as I got off with Ma, and I gave him a little wave.
Bye, fair Lady Abby, till we meet again.
He took off his top hat like a real gentleman, and he was completely bald. His head was a shiny pink happy color. We walked from the train station to Auntie Jane's. It was hard for Ma to walk long distances, but we didn't have a car. We didn't have money either, and we didn't have a daddy. There were lots of things we didn't have. The whole way, Ma talked about how great Auntie Jane was. "She's a real character, your Auntie Jane. You'll see, so much fun, and it's only for a little while." It was just like how she talked about the train being like Thomas when it wasn't. "It'll be just until I have the baby, Abby," she said. "You understand, don't you?" I told her I did, even though I didn't. It was 6 months later that I met Sir Hat again, and it was back at the train station. This time I was traveling with Auntie Jane to meet Ma and the baby. I hadn't seen Ma since she left me at Auntie Jane's. "You be a good girl, Abby. Remember I love you and I'll be back as often as I can." Except she never did come back, not even once. Auntie Jane held my hand. It was different than Ma's. Auntie likes to keep her fingernails clean and painted. She even likes to paint mine and doesn't like it when I've been playing in the dirt, making mud pies in her garden. It's funny. I was standing there looking at my polished shoes on the platform, wishing I was wearing my sneakers when I heard whistling. I looked up and there was Sir Hat. I thought that he might not recognize me, but he came over with the biggest smile.
"Well, Lady Abby, how are we today?"
He asked, and he gave a little bow and took off his top hat. And there it was again, all that pink. It made me giggle. Auntie Jane's red lips pinched together. "Who is this?" she asked. "This is Sir Hat," I said, as if she should know already. "He keeps dragons in his suitcase, and he counts in the tunnels. What's in your suitcase today?"
"Well, Lady Abby, today I have the most wretched of creatures, something called a dragwort. It is half dragon and half frog. It never brushes its teeth, and so it has the most disgusting breath. Worse, it makes an atrocious noise at night, calling out for other dragworts at all hours of the morning, and so I'm afraid I'm going to have to release it."
"Can I see?"
"Once again, I'm afraid not, my lady, as despite their small stature, they are rather nimble creatures, and at my age, they are rather a pain to capture."
"Seriously? That's ridiculous," muttered my aunt disapprovingly.
"I'm sorry to have offended you, madame, but dragworts are real, believe me. I haven't had a wink of sleep since this one took up residence in my home."
My aunt wrinkled her nose. "Where are you going to release it, Sir Hat?" I asked, ignoring my aunt.
Well, there's a nice little river not more than 5 stops along this station. There are plenty of other dragworts there, so I thought mine would be quite happy. And, Lady Abby, if you ever find your tap doesn't turn on, have a look to see if there's a dragwort stuck up there. I tell you, they do get themselves into some rather unusual places."
"That's good to know, isn't it, Auntie?" But Auntie Jane turned her head away. When the train came, my aunt seemed relieved. "Sit with us, Sir Hat." But my aunt said that wouldn't be a good idea. She pulled me away to a window where I couldn't see him. "You shouldn't talk to such people, Abby," she hissed. "He's not right in the head, feeding you all that nonsense." "Isn't it true?" "Of course not." Then she pulled out her phone and scrolled through all her messages. I looked out the window at all the buildings that hadn't toppled, and I thought about dragworts and dragons and Sir Hat's suitcase. Ma looked different when I saw her, and I don't know why, but I started crying. And she started crying too, and that made Auntie Jane cry a little, even though she said it would ruin her makeup. The baby had ginger hair, just like Daddy. It was nice to see some color. "Oh, Abby, I've missed you so much," said Ma, and she held me tight, squeezing me, but not the bad squeeze. It was the kind of squeeze where you feel you might just become part of that person, like 2 leftover pieces of soap pressed together to make one. "I miss you too, Ma." We got to talking and laughing even, and Auntie Jane told Ma how well I've been doing at school and how I was such a good girl. It wasn't quite the truth, because there had been plenty of times where she'd shut me in my room for doing something wrong, creating a mess, or sometimes because she and Uncle wanted a bit of quiet. But I didn't tell Ma any of that. We were having such a good time that I didn't quite understand when Auntie Jane said we better be getting home. "This is my home." Auntie Jane looked all uncomfortable and told me that it was just a visit, that Ma wasn't well enough to look after the 2 of us yet. "Give the baby to Auntie Jane then," I said. The adults gave themselves funny looks before Ma finally spoke. "Look, Pet, I wish it were that simple, but the baby needs feeding and I need to rest. the earthquake, your father. Ma stumbled over those words. And the baby. I'm not yet well enough to look after you both. I know you're meant to love your family, but at that moment, all I felt was hate. I took one look at Auntie with her head down, Ma with the baby suckling on her teeth, and I ran. I remember hearing them calling my name, but I didn't turn back. I only saw one color, and it was black. No one quite realizes how smart children are, how we can crawl into small spaces, under and over, like a bear hunt. I knew Ma wasn't going to follow. She still had the babe stuck to her breast, and Auntie Jane couldn't move fast in heels. I went under gates, shimming on my tummy, feeling happier the dirtier I got. I had no idea where I was going. I was just going. Some people looked at me strangely, but no one asked me anything. I was just a girl out for a walk with shiny shoes and a muddy dress. I passed the park. I had good memories there. Daddy pushing me on the swing. Higher, higher. Ma laughing, her cheeks a little pink back when she had no baby in her tummy. And even though I was thinking about all those happy things, I started crying. I'm not sure why, but I ended up at the river. Maybe it was because I wanted my tears to have some company, or maybe it was because I was thinking of floating some of my pain out on the water. Whatever it was, I was surprised to find Sir Hat there with an open suitcase, watching the river.
Why, Lady Abby?
He said happily as I walked up, but then his voice dropped when he saw my face.
What's wrong?
And I told him everything about Ma, the earthquake, Daddy, the baby, and Auntie Jane, and how no one really wanted me anymore. It was all like a great toppling, like I'd had one too many Jenga blocks taken and I couldn't keep it together anymore. My own little earthquake. He sat with me for a long time and listened. When I was all done, he told me he'd lost people in the earthquake too. One of them was his wife.
All of us got a little broken after the quake. Sometimes you can't see it because we're not all shattered on the outside, but inside we've got cracks running through us. I'd say your ma just needs a little more time to get better. She's probably really worried about you. What say we try and find her?
Sir Hat held out his hand and I took it. It felt different, like he was holding on to me as much as I was holding on to him. He closed and picked up his suitcase and I told him Ma's address. Did you release your drag ward? I asked, remembering.
I sure did, Lady Abby. I sure did.
As we walked away, I swear I heard some strange croaking from the river. Not like a frog croaking, but something different. A little odd, a little strange. I was tempted to turn around, to have a look, but I didn't want to break the magic.
Look, a rainbow,
said Sir Hat as we came up from the river. And even though Daddy was gone and Ma had cracks, it reminded me there was still magic and color in the world. You just had to know where to find it.
That was A Suitcase of Colors by Anne Wilkins, and man, just such a lovely story. I love that ending and how after all the hardship that Abby has faced and that she is still in the midst of, she is still looking for the magic and the color in the world. It's a beautiful piece and she's a really charming character.
Yeah, I thought it was just a really cool idea how Abby uses color to contrast the different aspects of the world. Bright pink and green to capture magic and imagination and wonder and love and connection versus black and white and gray to symbolize sadness and coldness and loss and disconnection.
Yeah, this symbolism was integrated into the story very well. Sometimes heavy symbolism can feel a bit forced, but this felt natural, I thought, like a genuine perspective of a child, and Abby's narrative voice felt authentic and incredibly charming.
Yeah, for sure. I also really like how the story unfolds. How, as the story begins, we get the contrast between Sir Hat and the rest of the world. More specifically, Abby's mother. And just the description that we get of Sir Hat's physical appearance. The suit, the top hat, the mustache, the whistling, tapping his shiny shoes, his bald pink head. He does feel like a cheery host of a children's television show. Or that's what I thought about. Everything about him exudes this feeling of magic and wonder. How is that contrasted with our introduction to Abby's mother, who is immediately on the stern, negative end of the spectrum of color, to continue on with that metaphor?
Exactly. It is very well crafted. It begins with her telling Abby, hissing actually, not to look at Sir Hat. Don't look at this embodiment of positivity, this imagination, this cheer. This magic is labeled as strange, not normal. She says, back then I didn't know it was rude to stare, that the polite thing to do was to ignore the odd and pretend that they didn't even exist. I love that line because it's true, and that's sort of sad to consider the idea that it's considered polite to pretend that someone doesn't exist. It seems backwards. And I thought that perfectly captured a child's perspective, and it's insightful.
Yeah, I really like that line too. And her first impression of her mother is not a good one. She seems a bit mean and cold. The way she grabs Abby by the arm, which hurts her, the way she's like impatient. So as the story begins, we don't really like this character too much. But it is soon revealed that Abby's father has died, which is a heartbreaking revelation, and we immediately have sympathy for the mother as well. We see that she's also pregnant, and we can empathize with her even more and understand that she's really struggling as well.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was very well done as well. That revelation we get abruptly changes your feelings about the character. In an instant, you go from thinking that she's just a mean mother to really feeling for her and better understanding where she's coming from. It's heartbreaking to get the details about how her father died in the earthquake, and just devastating to read. Also love the line, still, Daddy had the magic in him, so I wasn't expecting him to die. I knew he'd have a trick up his sleeve, and he'd be giving me a wink and saying, see, Abby, here I am. You didn't see that coming, did you? It's just heartbreaking that she still had that hope.
Yeah, and she continues to do a great job capturing that. Like how Auntie Jane immediately thinks that there is something wrong with Sir Hat as well, just because he's friendly and tells her this imaginative story. He's sort of looked down upon and again regarded as strange, but he's the only one present, the only one really engaging with Abby, the only one with color, while we get the description of the other adults on their phones, looking out the window, disconnected from one another.
It makes me sad. Yeah. And the arc of the story is just great. It's another heartbreaking moment when she realizes that she isn't going to get to go home with her mother and the baby. But again, I can also empathize with her mother and understand that it is an incredibly difficult time with this newborn and Abby's father being gone. So we feel for all these characters. And the ending and her final encounter with Sir Hat is just terrific. One of my favorite lines also was, I'm not sure why, but I ended up at the river. Maybe it was because I wanted my tears to have some company, or maybe it was because I was thinking of floating some of my pain out on the water. I just love that. And then how it closes with Sir Hat pointing out the rainbow and the final line being, even though Daddy was gone and Ma had cracks, it reminded me there was still magic and color in the world. You just had to know where to find it. It's a fantastic ending.
Overall, it's a wonderful story. And as for the prompts, Anne chose a train or train station for the setting, a pregnant woman for the character, and the one thing that everyone had to include for this challenge was an earthquake. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to check out Anne's website, annewilkinsauthor.com, and follow her on social media. All of this information is in the description wherever you are listening to this. And I think that is about it. Anything else, Merrick?
I don't think so. Thanks so much for listening, and we will be back in a couple weeks with another great story for you.
Have a good one.
See ya.